going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Endgame series. Now, what is that? That is me talking about in depth all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, 21 of them, that's including Captain Marvel, leading into the highly anticipated Avengers Endgame, which is my most anticipated, and I'm sure my guest as well. But I announced this series in my year in review live stream, and I've been building it up and building it up. And I've announced who's going to be collabing with me in each MCU movie. And I have my first guest right here. You're all familiar with this guy. He's a lovely and awesome movie reviewer that you all should know, and you should subscribe to this guy because he's awesome. That is Mr. Austin Burke. Austin, welcome back to the channel, man. It's been a while.
Oh, Ryan, listen, man, I am so excited to be here. Like you said, it's been a long time since we've done a collab, but you chose me for the movie Iron Man. The perfect movie, a movie I've not been able to revisit in quite some time. So I'm so excited to talk about it. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely, man. We do got to do more collabs this year. That's my goal.
Oh,
we're going to be talking about Iron Man, which came out in 2008. It was the very first film to kick off the entire MCU, directed by Jon Favreau, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrance Howard, and Jeff Bridges. But we're going to be doing an in-depth discussion about this film. I'm going to be giving Austin and me some personal questions, some very unique questions, talking about the film, giving us our experiences and what we love about this film, because I love Iron Man. It's in my top 10 for sure for the MCU movies, and it's just absolutely fantastic. Be sure to join in down below in the comment section, guys. Do you guys love Iron Man? Do you think it's overrated? Think it's okay? Or do you not like this movie at all? Let's have a great discussion down below. So, Austin, I'm ready to get started with this.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
So the first question that I want to ask you, Austin, is what's your experience like with Iron Man? Were you familiar with the character from the comic books? Did you see this movie when it came out in theaters in 2008, or did you more late to the game on it and you saw it at home? What was your first experience with Iron Man?
Okay, 2008, that is a year to remember. So I was actually 13 at the time when this came out. And, you know, the big thing in 2008, of course, if you're a DC fan, The Dark Knight comes out, and clearly I'm a big...
That's a smile on my face.
So clearly I'm a big Batman lover. So that's the film that it was really tickling my fancy that year. And I knew of Iron Man. I had known him from the comics and from the cartoons. And, you know, as a huge comic book lover at the time, a bit more DC than Marvel. I was still a fan of the Marvel comics, and I knew what he was, but he was really a B-level hero. He was not that A-level hero, and we did not know this was going to expand into this giant universe. So while I was excited for the film, my anticipation level didn't even come close to the level of quality that the movie ended up being. And I did see it in the theaters, and I was blown away. I mean, like I said, looking forward to The Dark Knight, didn't know this other little superhero movie was going to come along and be, I believe, my second or third favorite movie of that year, along with what The Dark Knight was, which, of course, you think of The Dark Knight, it's one of the best comic book movies ever made, and it really overshadows the fact that, hey, hold up, one of the best MCU films came out that year, the one that really started it all, started this entire universe. So when I saw that movie in the theater, I was overwhelmed, wanted to go back again and again. And even going back and watching it today in 2019, it holds up. It's a movie that has stood the test of time so far. And it's crazy to say that because 2008 feels like 2 years ago, but it has stood the test of time. And I think it's a movie that a lot of people, if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it because, in my opinion, it holds up as it did in 2008.
I 100% agree, Austin. Funny enough, I did not see this movie in theaters. I saw it at home. And so the first MCU film I saw in theaters was actually Captain America, the First Avenger. But
nice. Okay.
Yeah, never really been a huge into Iron Man in the comics back in the day, but really watching the movie for the first time, I absolutely loved it. Like, this movie was groundbreaking back in its day, and it came out at the time. The Marvel was pretty much on bankrupt. Like, this movie had to be good or else there wasn't going to be an MCU. And thank God it was great. Yeah. And it just had another curious question. Did you stay for the end credits?
I did. And the only reason I did is because I was a big fan of the website comicbookmovie.com. Shout out. And a ton of people on there said, stay. And I'm like, what's okay, first of all, what is an after credit scene? What is this? And then second of all, what's it going to tease? But to this day, it's one of my favorite after credit scenes of all time. Just seeing Sam Jackson, the guy that they modeled Nick Fury after in the comics, actually play Nick Fury, man. I get chills thinking about that today. And it was incredible. What a cool experience.
Absolutely. Like that end credit scene, like I know, oh, well, there's an end credit scene. And I watched it and it's like Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. That is just absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. It's awesome. Like, this movie's awesome. Like from start to finish, it's absolutely perfect. Absolutely loving the character of Iron Man. And we've seen so many MCU movies now. And Robert Downey Jr. has been the big heart and star of this entire franchise. Yeah. And it's just great. So the second question I wanted to ask you, Austin, is if Robert Downey Jr. was never cast, who else could play this role?
Man, that's a tough question. The funny rumors that had come out after the movie premiered is Tom Cruise was going to play Iron Man originally. And I don't know if this is true, but he would not do it because I guess he wanted the mask to be see-through so you could see his face. It's like, what? But I love Tom Cruise, but I could never imagine Tom Cruise playing Iron Man. The best person to think about it now, at the time, I would have never imagined this, but the guy who plays his father in Captain America, the First Avenger, is the closest I've seen to Iron Man.
Dominic Cooper? Yes.
So good as Iron Man's father. And he's one of those characters. You talk about Hugh Jackman, you talk about Robert Downey Jr., you talk about J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. I mean, these actors are these characters, and you could never picture someone replacing them. And it will happen, whether it's 100 years from now or 10 years from now. Iron Man will be recast. It's coming. But it is something that I could never fathom because he is so good as this character, one of my favorites of all time.
Robert Downey Jr., as soon as he was cast, like, this is just perfect. With everything that's happened to him and all that, it's just a great character. Because Tony Stark is not the perfect person at start because he's not that lovable of a person, He's very flawed. He drinks a lot. He loves women. But, he fully develops as a character. He has a great character arc, and he wants to do good. He doesn't want his weapons to destroy people. He just wants to use them for good to protect people. I agree. It's great to see Tony Stark go through the journey that he goes on. Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, she's also amazing. Amazing. Best performance. Terrance Howard, also great.
Yeah.
So the third question, Austin, is that what is the one thing about this movie that you find to be impactful?
There are so many things, but just off the top of my head, I think it's the fact that it's a bit more grounded than the other MCU movies. And when it started out, you didn't think of it that way because this is a superhero film in a superhero universe. So clearly it's a bit outlandish, but looking back after we've had Thor, which is this giant fantasy world, Doctor Strange, which is chaotic in all senses of the word, and Guardians of the Galaxy, you look back at a movie like Captain America, and even that's a bit outlandish, but Iron Man, a guy gets stuck in a cave. He has to use his wits to work his way out of the situation. The entire movie is very realistic, and it doesn't start getting unrealistic until Iron Man 2 or even the first Avengers movie. This is a movie that is very grounded in reality as far as you can stretch your imagination to watch something like this because, it's a superhero movie. None of this technology exists, but you believe it. And that's what the MCU does so well is they start you out with this film that's maybe not too much, but then you work your way up to Captain America and then Thor and then boom, Guardians of the Galaxy. What Kevin Feige has done with this franchise is brilliant in my opinion. And I think the fact that Iron Man 1 was so grounded in reality, I think that looking back at it today, that's what has allowed it to stand the test of time. And I think that's one of the reasons why people love it so much.
I really liked his relationship with Jensen.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Great character. Underrated character in the MCU.
Very good. Underrated Jensen. But yeah, it's such a groundbreaking first act and really sets up the character of Tony Stark and just makes you really care about him and know what he's trying to do. And the score and all that just really makes it better as well. And oh my God, we have so much to talk about with that. Yeah, but let's talk about our favorite scenes in this movie. Like, Austin, what would your favorite scene be in this movie?
Oh man, there are so many. You know, just the first, it has to be the Jericho scene for me. It when he throws his arms up in the air and he's, ladies and gentlemen, the Jericho, and you see that explosion. I mean, this, for me, this is what Tony Stark is. He's this cocky, full of himself guy, believes in everything he's doing, not very likable at first, but he's smart and he's right. He's always right. Whether you like him or not, he is Tony Stark, and he's standing there presenting this weapon. And that's the scene that really got me when I first watched this movie. I said, that's Tony Stark. That's Tony Stark from the comic books. And from there on out, you're locked in with his character. You're locked in with Robert Downey Jr. The cave scene is fantastic. The first scene with Ironmonger is really good when Jeff Bridges comes out of those chains fighting Agent Coulson and his associates. But it's that Jericho scene that really, it's in the trailer. I love that scene so much. Maybe my favorite one.
Absolutely. My favorite scene in the movie is when he's first flying the first Mark suit.
Oh, great scene.
Flying that scene. It's so good. And he's just learning how to fly, and he's just flying all over the place. We have to break the ice.
Yeah. Even the little hand, but when he comes back down, the little robot that sprays the fire extinguisher stuff on him, I'm like, that is brilliant. I love
that. The great humor in there. And what I love most about that scene is just the score. The score is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
Who did the score to this movie? I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Ramin Djawadi did the score to this movie. Fantastic score.
That's a great score. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene. I also love when he is flying against those missile planes. That was an awesome scene as well.
Yes.
Yes. There's so many great scenes in Iron Man that the end credit scene is also up there for me. There's also the tough question. What would your least favorite scene be in the movie? Because there's really not a bad scene in this film.
No, I don't. You know, this isn't a scene, but the final battle, that entire sequence for me is probably the most underwhelming thing of the film, because the rest of the movie is so good. It's so grounded. You get this build up for Ironmonger, and then it seems like he's, spoilers, killed off almost immediately. It barely lasted any time. So it's not a bad scene. And I don't think there's like you said, I don't think there's a bad scene in this movie, but it's probably my least favorite sequence is that final battle.
I agree. That's also my least favorite scene in the film. Because Obadiah Stane, the character, is so good. So Jeff Bridges is phenomenal.
Amazing.
Once that Ironmonger scene, them fighting at the end, and that's where it underwhelmed me. And it just felt very short and underwhelming. And to see that character get killed off like that, Obadiah Stane, but still everything else besides that is absolutely phenomenal. That's been my only issue with Iron Man. From being absolutely flawless, it's absolutely great. Just that final battle just underwhelms me.
Agreed.
Yeah. So the next thing is, why do you think Marvel chose this film to start the MCU? Why do you think they chose Iron Man to start the MCU?
I think at the time, you know, you have a very stoic, kind of emotionless character in Captain America. And really, before Thor became funny, that's kind of what Thor was too. He was very emotionless. And they were struggling, juggling, trying to figure out what to do with Hulk. And I think they knew he was going to be more of a side character than anything. I think they knew that Robert Downey Jr. as this character, or even the character of Tony Stark before he was cast, I think they knew he was the trump card. He was the thing that was going to get people invested and launch this universe because he has the most personality. He can provide humor, which is something that I think a lot of comic book superhero movies were lacking at the time, because some were funny, but they were unintentionally funny, like Catwoman or Elektra. like
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin, like unintentionally funny. But comic book movies at the time, I think they were missing well-told stories with humor injected, which we've seen many times in the MCU, but Tony Stark is the perfect character to do that and to start that with, and I think that's the reason why they chose him. And Jon Favreau, he's the man. He wanted to get this movie made. He said, I can do it. I know we can do it. We can build a universe off of it. They did it. Kevin Feige said, you can do this. I believe in you. And the rest is history.
It's a funny movie. It's a great drama as well. It's a great action movie. And we just need more humor films that are funny. And then we got Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, and Ant-Man. And that's where the spawn of superhero films started to be more light, more than light in tone, more than dark and serious. And a lot of people complain with the Marvel movies being way too over the top with the light humor compared to dark and serious. But this movie did it perfectly, man. It's great. It's not unintentional, and I thought they made the right choice possible. Starting off this franchise with Iron Man.
Completely agree.
If this movie failed, where would there ever be an MCU? Or if there is an MCU, would it be as phenomenal as it is right now? Like, what would happen if this movie failed and we didn't have a Marvel Cinematic Universe? That's a really tough question.
It's a great question. I mean, so you have to look at it like this. You know, what came after Iron Man? Well, The Incredible Hulk came after Iron Man, and that movie didn't really do that hot, right? Yeah. So if we didn't get that first Iron Man movie that hit the mark, then maybe we wouldn't have gotten Iron Man 2. So maybe they would have said, you know, those two didn't work, we'll go with Captain America and just do something different with these characters. I don't know if the MCU would have gotten off the ground, honestly, because I think this was the determining factor. If Iron Man doesn't work, and I imagine them sitting in this room talking, if this film doesn't work, this universe doesn't work. This future of what the Marvel movies could be will not work. And I truly believe, and I hate to say this, I don't think we would have any of these films. So is Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige's decision to make all of the creative things that they did with this movie, are those decisions the things that made the MCU work today? And I hate to put it all on one thing, but yeah, I think Iron Man is the reason why we have the MCU we have. I truly do.
They took the chance on it. Like, okay, let's see if this works. And let's see if it actually is phenomenal. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now we have, and then we had Incredible Hulk, which wasn't phenomenal. Okay. Iron Man 2 was very disappointing. But then we had Thor, which was good. Yes. First Adventure was good, and Avengers was amazing.
Oh, yes. That's where it got really good.
And then I love just how Marvel just keeps it going. Like, each movie has their own tone to it, and they make so much money in the box office. Like, it's the most profitable studio working today. It's incredible. Yeah. All the hats off should go to Mr. Kevin Feige. He's one of the main reasons why this MCU exists, and Stan Lee as well. Rest in peace to Stan Lee. Like, those three legends are why this MCU exists. All right, so this is a question I went back and forth on, because rewatching this movie, I really like this guy, and I also love this guy too. I got to ask you, Austin, Terrance Howard or Don Cheadle?
Oh, man. You know, here's my take on it. I like Don Cheadle as a piece of the Avengers. I think he works better in the team aspect. I truly do. And I think Don Cheadle's a great actor. I prefer Terrance Howard as the character. I think he's the better Rhodey. I do. I think he embodies Rhodey more. I think his relationship with Tony Stark was more intriguing. He's a little out there, especially when you look at Terrance Howard in real life. It's like, I get why they didn't want him to come back, because he's like, I want all the money in the world, and you're not going to get that, clearly. But I think he's the better Rhodey. I would have loved to have seen how he would have fit in, if you want to say it like that, or not fit in with the Avengers, just because I think Terrance Howard's personality with Rhodey would have been a lot different than Don Cheadle. Because I think Don Cheadle just kind of flows, like goes with the flow a little bit. And they would have adapted more of his personality if they would have kept him. But if we're talking standalone Rhodey, who plays the better Rhodey? I got to go Terrance Howard.
I love Terrance Howard. Yeah, I agree. I would have loved to see Terrance Howard now in this current MCU, but I completely, exactly. You know, he wanted all money, but no, it's Robert Downey Jr. Like, he's the one that started off. But Terrance Howard was great. He's a really good Rhodey. He really embodies the military aspect of Rhodey that I don't kind of get with Don Cheadle. But still, Don Cheadle's great. We're not hating on Don Cheadle, guys. He's good, but we think Terrence Howard's better, and we would like to see him. But still, Don Cheadle's great. No matter what, they're both great roadies. But
as long as we have War Machine, I am fine.
Yeah, please don't die. But anyway, where does this movie rank in your MCU ranking? I know you do a bunch of MCU rankings like me. It kind of does go back and forth, I'm sure.
So here's my MCU list. Right now, I have Iron Man at number 8 on my MCU list.
Hey, we're in the same ballpark. I have it at 8.
Really? You have it at 8? Okay, perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, so, you know, and look at how many films there are. We have 20 movies, right? So just, and I like 18. Well, no, actually, I kind of like all of them, but I really like 18 out of the 20. And the fact that it is so high up with super high quality level films, we're talking about Avengers Infinity War and Winter Soldier, the first ever Oscar nominated movie, Black Panther.
Wakanda Forever.
So, Wakanda Forever, baby. So it's got a lot of competition, but the fact that it's number 8 should be amazing. And probably my top 10 are like 8.5 and 9s out of 10s or higher. So I love this film. I think it holds up. I hope it stays in my top 10 for a long time, but I can't make any promises because MCU's just going to keep cranking them out, baby. They're going to keep cranking them.
Yeah. Would this also be in your favorite superhero films of all time discussion?
Yeah, it definitely my top 20 for sure. I believe it's in my top. Yeah, I think it's in my top 15, like right at the 15 spot. It's grounded enough, but it's outlandish enough that I think it kind of captures the best of both worlds. And I think it captures this character that, you know, any other studio, any other company, any other person other than Kevin Feige, I don't know if they could have captured it. And the casting of Robert Downey Jr. is the single greatest decision that the MCU ever made. Mark my words. Yes. Nothing else is truer from this entire review is that casting, I believe, launched the entire MCU. And for that reason alone, and the fact that this is a good movie, makes Iron Man very important.
It's my number 8 as well. And I've seen 20 MCU movies, so that could definitely change coming up with my updated MCU ranking after Spider-Man Far From Home. But
yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about the final question I have for you, Austin. And it's I've teased it to you. Okay. And I hope you have an answer. I'm just kidding. How do you think Iron Man 2008 will affect the Endgame?
It's a wonderful question. Well, here's the thing with Endgame, right? All cards are on the table. Anything that wants to return from the dead can return from the dead. Anyone that wants to come in from another universe can come in. All of those things are on the table. This is a 3-hour film we're talking about. This is a movie that they're considering bringing in an intermission for. So, you know, this is the end game. But what I think I've noticed so far, just from the tidbit of marketing that we've had, is Tony Stark is in a situation right now that is very similar to the situation he was in the cave in the first Iron Man. Alone, not a lot to work with, running out of food, running out of this, running out of that. He has to use his wits. That's the situation he and Nebula are in right now, up in space, stuck up there. And we saw that little tiny tidbit in that trailer for the Super Bowl, the TV spot. He is using his brain. He is creating something. He is going to either A, here's my thoughts, he is going to get rescued by Gwyneth Paltrow's character. She's going to get in the rescue Iron Man suit, and she's going to go up there and save him. Or B, he is going to use his wits to get himself out of that situation, just like he did, mirroring what he did in the very first Iron Man movie. 22 films later, after Captain Marvel, he is going to he's going to do the exact same thing. And I believe that is the ultimate parallel. And it could be a great way for him to go out. And I'm not saying he's going to die, but I don't know if he's coming back.
Yeah, just like you said, him stuck in the Guardian ship with Nebula after half of his friends turned to dust. We don't know if Pod's turned to dust yet. Jeez. Oh, yeah. But I could definitely see, Tony using his brains to get him and Nebula out of that ship. Or I could definitely see Captain Marvel coming in to save the day. We'll see what happens for sure. But yeah, Tony Stark is just an important character. I really want to see. I think they're definitely going to do something big, kill off Tony or Cap. Iron Man will definitely affect the Endgame because Iron Man's one of the most important characters to this final Avengers Endgame movie.
It is. Yes.
It's going to be very sad, but very excited to see what Marvel is going to do. You've heard it from a bajillion other people, including us.
We've been agreeing a lot today, Ryan. We got the same, the same ranking. What's up, man?
We're your best friends, guys.
Yes.
That does it for Iron Man. And Austin, thank you so much for joining me for the Iron Man, talking about this movie in depth and answering those. Those were awesome responses to those questions, guys. And what would your answers to these questions be? How do you think Iron Man is going to affect the Endgame? And all this stuff. We want to hear from you guys. Hit that thumbs up button and that subscribe button, but not to just me, to Mr. Austin Burke. So, Austin, where can our lovely people find you on social media, your YouTube and all that?
Well, you guys can find me at the Burkinator on Twitter. I'm on Stardust and YouTube and Letterboxd now, doing reviews all of the time. And always, you on Letterboxd now?
I'm on there too.
I love that website, but I'm going to be heavily covering the future of the MCU, all superheroes, all comic books. Clearly, I'm in that nerdy, geeky category, but I love every second of it. And Ryan, as always, man, thank you for letting me be on your channel. Love what you do. Love your coverage of the MCU. Can't wait to see the rest of this series and all of your special guests, because each and every person on there, I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is big time. So thank you for having me on, man. And it was a blast.
Look forward to the next one, which is on Friday. I will be filming that Friday. I will be in-depth discussing the Incredible Hulk with Mr. Rama Screen. Look forward to that next one, guys. That's going to be super exciting. Thank you for watching the first episode of the Endgame series. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe today and subscribe to Austin for more content. And all my social media links are in the description down below. Click that notification bell on your way out. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Bye!